Okay, so let's look at forms inside of MailChimp. In order to access your forms, you're going to have to click on Lists. As I mentioned earlier, there's only one form per list. So you're going to want to click on a list, and then under that list, click on Sign Up Forms. Let's start with the form builder here. So the form builder defines how your form is structured. So it shows all the data that you might potentially capture on a subscriber in MailChimp. And the fields that you see here are going to be in part defined by the data that your e-commerce platform is passing to MailChimp. So this may look slightly different depending on what platform you're using and what data has already been passed over to MailChimp. Now you can add or subtract fields to your form. So you'll see over here on the right, there are a number of selections here. So you can add, for instance, if you wanted to add, say, a website field, simply click on that. That is added to your form. You have to click Save Field. So that's some more data you might want to click on someone. You can define what fields will be visible to the end user. So for instance, you'll see here that some of these fields are blued out, like the address field here. It says actually hidden in here in the background. And the way you affect that is just to toggle this hidden or visible radio box here. So let's say we decided we thought last name was not some information we wanted to collect on our form. We would click hidden, and let's say birthday as well. That hidden, and website, that. So those are no longer going to be visible on the form that we present. You can define which fields are mandatory. So email address has been deemed mandatory by or as a required field by default. If we wanted to make first name required field, we can simply select that. You can even add groups inside of the form builder as well. So this is really just an alternate method for adding groups. So for instance, if we wanted to add a field here, let's say we wanted to capture people's gender, we could click drop down. It's going to add a field here. Now we're going to have to define what that field, want that field to represent. So we would simply write gender, and then the options would be male or female. And there's no third choice, so we'll just save that. And again, we can make that visible if we like, and we can make it a required field simply by clicking here. So that is your form builder. You'll notice there are a number of other things under the drop-down up here. So these are secondary forms. For instance, this will show you what your form will look like when there are required fields that are not completed. You can look at CAPTCHA information. You can define the language you want to use for CAPTCHA forms. There's a confirmation. Again, you can affect the copy here. So you have a fair bit of flexibility here. The unsubscribe form as well. So you can go through all of these and just simply update them. The defaults are pretty good, and if you're just starting out, you may just want to stick with the defaults for now. Under the form builder page, MailChimp provides you with a hosted version of this form. So there's a little URL here. You can copy and paste that, and if you ever want to send someone to your form from anywhere, you can simply provide them with that URL, and it will show you a MailChimp hosted version of your form. So this is not hosted on your site. So that's the form builder. Let's go back to sign up forms. Embedded forms allows you to take the form that you've created using the form builder and embed it on web pages, either on your site or elsewhere. So this is a preview of what your form will look like as we've defined it now, with email address being the only required field. And we can simply copy and paste this. If we wanted to put this, say, on a Shopify site, we could simply go to a page in our online store. We'd add a page, and we call this form for now. We'd simply click on the HTML editor, and we can literally just copy and paste that in here, save, And that is what that form is going to look like on our site. Now, it may inherit some of the styling, but it's a very basic form. Not that useful for collecting email addresses. Now, there are some options here. It will allow us to just embed a simple form, and there are a few options around that. Now, if you do have access to a developer, you can style this form and make it look however you like, and it will pass all that information onto MailChimp. But there are some easier workarounds that I'll show you in a subsequent lesson. So let's look at the subscriber pop-up here. So this might be the easiest way to get a simple form pop-up on your site, and this should integrate easily with your e-commerce platform. Now, this is a very basic form. The problem with this form is it's really not a very compelling offer, and you can update it. So we could just go over to the content here. We can make this a little more compelling, say get 10% off your first order. A little bit better. And we can add anything we want here, one time per customer. And we can even affect the fields here. We could perhaps ask for first name, and we can define whether that's a required field or not. The problem with this pop-up is this would have to be a global offer. There would be no way to segment people who opted in for a 10% off offer versus people who may have opted in via other means. You have to treat them all the same because there's simply no way to get this person into a group, because you would want to segment people into a group that indicated how they had subscribed to your list so that you could offer them that offer using an automation. So I'll get into some workarounds in a subsequent lesson. But, if you're just getting started out, this is a good, simple option for getting some sort of opt-in on your site. And now to launch out on your site, you would simply hit publish, and that should be working on your site if MailChimp is integrated with your e-commerce platform. So go back here. Form integrations, you don't need to worry about that right now. I am going to show you a tool called Opt-in Monster that will remove all of the limitations within MailChimp's forms itself and allow you a whole lot of flexibility in building really powerful opt-ins.